Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. I have been a fan of the Detroit Lions since I was, as the old adage would go, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I've loved the Lions. I've loved football, virtually my entire life. I'm going to tell you this right now. The one thing that has never ceased to happen, and at the same time never ceased to amaze me, is that every time you're not even thinking about it, every time you're not even looking for it, every time that you don't even think it's something that should come up, there's always been what I would like to call the fair share of absolutely ridiculously bad ideas and takes. I don't know what it is, but it's like even when, things are going good, there is no shortage of proposals that people will make to try and generate talking points. And I'm going to say this. While some of these ideas or proposals that some people might come up with, they might actually have, some sense to them, or they might have a modicum of reasonability to them, I'm just going to be honest, like 85 to 90% of the ideas that get proposed as far as trades, acquisitions, whatever the phrase might be, they absolutely astound one's ability to think rationally or logically. Like, I have heard so many different types of ideas been proposed over the course of my entire interest in NFL football that it just absolutely is ridiculous how 95 to almost 99% of them, they absolutely have no reason as far as being a good idea. They have no logic as far as even being a sensible proposal. But yet, they get proposed every single year. And I'm just going to say this right now. I'm not just saying that in terms of the Detroit Lions. I'm saying that over the entire course of the NFL, over any given year. But, to be more specific to us, I'm going to tell you this right now. Quite a number of these ideas or proposals that I have personally seen, they do have something to do with the Detroit Lions. And unfortunately, quite a number of Lions fans, whenever these ideas or proposals get brought up, the Lions fans entertain them. They absolutely bite for them, hook, line, and sinker. And that's not just even the course of a season. That's not even over the course of a season. That's also over the course of an off season. But I want to tell you this right now. Sometimes when an idea gets proposed, sometimes it is just so ridiculously bad that most Lions fans won't even bite on it. They won't even take it seriously. But there are still some that will. And I'm going to say this right now. I have gotten to a point now as a podcaster where I usually try my best not to take aim at other Lions content creators' work because I respect those people who are in our community that I myself also inhabit and create in. It's hard to be a content creator. And you know what? Sometimes, you're in a bit of a rut, so you come up with an idea. And you know what? I try my best not to get on other people's toes. I really do. However, in this case, I'm going to kind of step into that little, arena, if you will, because every once in a while, an idea gets floated by somebody that I simply find myself just shaking my head because it simply makes no sense on any sort of level, no matter who you are. And why do I say this? The reason I say this is because recently, a guy by the name of Mike Payton, which I'm sure a lot of you know who exactly he is, he came up with a proposal where, as he literally wrote it in his article, he said the proposal could potentially alter and set up the future of the Lions' success by trading for a player from another franchise. Now, when you kind of set it up that way, you're saying that, oh, this could be a really, really big trade. It could have really big implications as far as what it could mean for the Lions in the future. Well, what trade is he talking about here? He proposed the idea of the Detroit Lions potentially having this future success by trading for Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson to be a developmental guy behind Goff for the next few years before having a shot to take over the reins here in Detroit. That was in essence what this whole article that he came up with was about. And I remember when I saw that title, I remember when I read the article, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? There's no way that this is even remotely, slightly, even, you can't even try and pass this off as a realistic proposal. And I'm not going to mince words about it, but this is a completely ill-advised suggestion to make on Peyton's part. And there's several reasons that I can give to why this trade idea is not only a bad one, but it is colossally bad. And I'm going to be honest, I actually like a lot of Mike Payton's work. I like a lot of the ideas that he proposed. I'm not going to say I like everything he comes up with. And a lot of it, I just, if I don't like it, I will usually just throw it away and, just leave it alone. But when I see an idea like this, and I'm just like, dude, I can't even see how or why you would come up with this idea, I have to talk about it. Because the idea, it actually surprised me, and not in a good way, that Payton, whose work I have respected quite a bit, would propose the idea. And here are the reasons that I consider this idea to be a completely and utterly boneheaded one for Payton to suggest the Lions to do. Here's the first reason. Let's just call it for what it is. The Lions have already tried this route once already, very recently. Because while the Lions have not traded for a quarterback in the hopes of developing him, like Payton is suggesting with Anthony Richardson, they did make a substantial investment in another big mobile quarterback in Hendon Hooker back in 2023, which, coincidentally, that is the same draft that Anthony Richardson was drafted in. And we did it with a third-round pick. The selection of Hooker at the time, and again, we're going back a little bit into history. Obviously, Hooker's no longer here. But when Hooker was initially selected by the Detroit Lions at, that spot in the third round, it was seen as a steal for the Lions at the time because it was viewed that the Lions had gotten themselves a quarterback for the future who could, in essence, take over for Goff in a couple of years because everybody was already still thinking that, hey, you know what? Goff is not going to stay in Detroit forever. He's only going to be here for maybe another year or so. The Lions are already trying to find somebody to take over for him because they want to find a guy that is more suited towards this faster-paced NFL where quarterbacks are more mobile. And this was all based upon his prolific play at Tennessee prior to coming to the NFL. The issue was and is that Hooker never was able to translate the play that he showed at Tennessee with any tangible progress on the field that gave a hint or inkling he could lead an NFL offense successfully and get wins. Because think about it, over the course of the 3 off seasons that the Lions kept him, before they finally decided to cut ways with him this offseason, they kept pouring time and resources into Hooker to develop him, to get him to potentially be the kind of guy that a lot of people were thinking he might eventually one day be. Now, obviously, the way they were doing it is they were just wanting to see him to progress, so that way they had themselves a competent backup who maybe one day could be that guy. But that was going to be at least a couple more years down the road before that was even a serious conversation to have. But you had people for the Detroit Lions fandom that are like, oh yeah, you know what? If we can just get him to where we want him to be, he could easily replace Goff. Problem is that no sooner had we drafted Hendon Hooker, shortly after that, Goff got himself a new deal. Goff was absolutely, made the franchise quarterback because he had earned it. So it's like, okay, that's not going to happen. But we've now got a guy that we can develop into being a, suitable backup quarterback. The problem is that investment was not only not returned by Hendon Hooker under any circumstances that you could even try to measure it by, it was a monumental failure. 3 times. 3 separate times when Hooker was put up against another QB to try and win the number 2 quarterback job, he lost 2 out of those 3 times. The only time that he actually won a straight head-to-head competition was against Nate Sudfeld. He was completely overlooked when we brought in Teddy Bridgewater, and he absolutely lost out to Kyle Allen this previous offseason. So in 3 separate occasions, Hendon Hooker was not even able to win the majority of the times and was only able to win against a really, really bad quarterback that normally is only a third stringer. The issue that I'm trying to get at this is that you have Mike Payton who's suggesting we bring in Anthony Richardson, a guy who was drafted in the 4th overall pick by the Colts. Well, think about this. Hendon Hooker is a guy that had similar levels of talent, but yet he had more college level experience than freaking Anthony Richardson did, right? Well, the problem is that Hendon Hooker came from Tennessee, which runs a spread offense, and in the college ranks, he absolutely looked great. But he could never come close to playing the pro style of offense that the Lions have currently and that the rest of the NFL runs, and he just never seemed to adequately grasp the timing or the chemistry that's needed to run that style of offense, which is why after 3 off seasons, the Lions pulled the plug on Hooker and they released him. For Richardson, like I just said, it's even worse because Richardson was drafted 4th overall and he was named the starter for the Colts, and he was not only not even close to what Richardson was producing in college, but he was producing in the NFL with the same fatal errors that Hooker was showing as a backup for the Detroit Lions. Couldn't figure out the timing aspect of a pro-style offense. Couldn't read coverage worth a damn. And on top of that, there are other problems, such as questionable work ethic, commitment, resiliency in terms of also not getting injured and being able to say, hey, you know what, a play didn't go your way. You need to go out there and you need to keep playing. You need to keep making plays. The reach that the Colts made for Richardson at the 4th overall pick was massive. And everyone knew that he was immensely green as hell, but yet they were willing to draft him at that 4th overall spot because they thought that, hey, the potential outweighed, whatever it was that was a concern right now. But like I said, Hendon Hooker was a starter for multiple years in the NCAA. Freaking Anthony Richardson was only a starter for 1 year. And in that 1 year at college as a starter, he was absolutely putrid, dismal as a passer. He completed less than 55% of his passes in that 1 year as a starter, barely had over 2,500 passing yards, and had only 17 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Again, the Colts invested in potential versus actual overall production, and he burned them bad. Why? Because in the NFL, Richardson's stats have been even worse. I'm just going to say this really quickly. Anthony Richardson has been an absolute bust in the NFL. Something that I literally called years ago because there were quite a lot of Lions fans that went for the idea of drafting a Richardson in the first round, because that's how they were still viewing Goff at the time. But if you take a look at Richardson's stats in the NFL, he has barely completed over 50% of his throws, 50.6% to be entirely accurate, which is exactly what he isn't. He's completed almost 2,400 passing yards for less than 7 an average a throw. He has 11 passing touchdowns to only 13 interceptions, with a 67.8 passer rating. As a starter in the NFL, Richardson has quite literally been one of the biggest busts in the NFL's history at the quarterback position, next to guys like Trey Lance and Ryan Leaf. There is next to no reason that him having a change of scenery is going to come, with any sort of positive benefit if he were to go from the Colts offense to the Lions offense. Why? Because the Colts offense, while it is a pro-style offense, it is significantly less complex and in-depth as the Lions one. And somehow to think that that would be able to allow him to have a measurable change of progress, there's just no way you could pass me on that. There's no way that would ever make a good idea, in my opinion. The second reason that this is a ridiculously bad idea is, and I already hinted at it, Richardson is not a schematical or cultural fit here in Detroit. Like I said, the Lions' pro-style offense here in Detroit, it is all based on timing, it's all based on rhythm, it's all based on chemistry. And you have to think about it. For a quarterback, it takes extreme dedication to your craft and extreme dedication to precision to even be adequate at that type of a job. If you want to be even more specific, it takes near inhumane levels to be elite. The Lions are going to want a guy who can do the things that Goff is doing at nearly the same level when Goff decides that he's done. And when I say done, I mean when he retires. Because let's be honest with ourselves. The Lions are going to keep Goff until he retires, which that's not going to be for at least another 7 to 9 years. Richardson, I'm going to say this right now, he could have that exact number of years to try and learn from Goff, and sorry, not sorry, I have no faith that he would even come close to half of that efficiency that Goff operates at right now. Goff has shown that he is literally one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL doing what he does. And Richardson is so far on the other side of that spectrum right now, it might as well be East is from the West. Anybody that understands that reference means and understands those two never touch. They never meet. The East and West, they never ever meet, no matter what. So it's like there's no chance that you could ever sell me on the idea that this would be a really good one. But besides the obvious schematic problem of bringing in Anthony Richardson, there's the definite, absolutely definite cultural problem. Over the past 2 years that Richardson has played in Indianapolis for the Colts, there have already been accusations for his lack of effort, his lack of commitment, and love to the game. For any player, an accusation like that can kill your career. That can leave a massive black spot on your record. But for a quarterback, that might as well be a proverbial death sentence for you. And for the Lions, it's not a proverbial death sentence. It is a death sentence. And what I mean by that is the Lions have made it absolutely abundantly clear. They want football players who are committed to being football players, first and foremost, but yet they're also fully committed to the Lions' process of hard work and getting better every single day, no matter what. Richardson has shown in his play on the field, he does not embody those values. And as such, there's no way Holmes or Campbell would ever invest in him with either picks or money. When you have a quarterback that literally goes to the sideline, he goes off the field because he's tired and he needs a breather, so you have to bring in the backup quarterback for a play or two so that way he can catch his breath? No, sorry, that's not what a leader does. And I'll tell you why. Even though Richardson's an athletic quarterback, I guarantee you this. Goff has had moments where he's tired on the field. That's not going to, that's not going to be a reason that he's going to come off the field. The only way he's coming off the field is if he's actually hurt. And even when Goff has been hurt, he's usually right back out there the very next play after he's been evaluated and, okay, you're fine. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'm going right back out. And then there's the third reason here. there's no need for the Lions to bring in another quarterback. There's just simply no reason. As much as Richardson is a physical specimen of a football player, and is definitely dynamic as a QB from the fact of his size, his power, his speed, and all that nonsense, the Lions do not need to bring in another quarterback. The Lions currently have 4 quarterbacks on their roster or in their building between Goff, Allen, Beathard, and Cunningham. What the hell are they going to do with a 5th one? Or if they decide to cut one, again, what reason do you need to realistically keep Anthony Richardson over a guy like Cunningham? Because that would be in essence what you'd be doing. You'd be swapping the two for that point. So what particular use would Anthony Richardson have? What would he serve? The answer is quite literally none. The Lions have their franchise quarterback for the next potential decade. They have also behind him in Goff 2 veteran QBs who will serve as Goff's immediate backup should something happen to him, which, knock on wood there. And on top of that, as I just stated, they have Cunningham, who quite literally has the mobility factor that Richardson has. So even as a practice squad player, having Richardson here serves little to no purpose. And if the only reason you wish to bring him in is for, again, developmental reasons, that means 2 things. Either someone on the practice squad is going to have to get cut to make space for him, or you're going to have to trade resources for him. Something that is not going to happen. I can guarantee you that. The Lions are not going to trade resources for a guy that has questionable work ethic and commitment problems, and on top of that, has been arguably the biggest draft bust in the NFL's recent history, or maybe all-time history at the quarterback position, opposite of Trey Lance and Ryan Leaf. It's just not going to happen. So this idea, this proposal that Peyton is suggesting, I'm going to be honest, it quite literally has no value and it makes no sense. It serves no purpose or benefit to the Lions. And as such, the Lions are not even going to think about it, let alone possibly even discuss it. But the reason I'm talking about it is because it's like, listen, these are the kinds of ideas that get people thinking in the fandom, and it's like, dude, you shouldn't even think about this stuff because it's that bad of an idea. It's that bad. He wasn't even a good quarterback in the NCAA. He's been an even worse quarterback in the NFL. What makes you think him coming to Detroit with a complex offense where everything is expected of the quarterback to make that offense work, that he's going to somehow make it work by developing here when he couldn't do it in Indianapolis? There's absolutely no reason to believe that. I don't give a damn change of scenery, whatever excuse you want to use. It ain't going to work. So I just wanted to talk about this really quickly because I saw this the other day and I'm like, nope. I'm going to check this nonsense literally because I can already tell you this right now. Somebody's going to think about this and it's like, don't even go there. Just let it lie, let it die, and move on. Let's focus on what's actually important, which is, hey, we keep winning football games. So I wanted to make this episode really quickly. I believe I've done that. I believe I've laid out my reasons for it. So I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you'd not yet had a chance to do so, I want to highly encourage y'all, please, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so you guys never miss any more content that I push out. I hope you all are having a great day. Hope you all got some in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.